So you probably know what I'm going to talk about.
Gotcha, bitch!
We will get to that soon. What I would like to start off talking about is, I mean, there's no mitigating the words about this, how degraded the Oscars have become, how they have devalued themselves in the way that they present the show and what kind of movies that they nominate and give awards to. In the 1990s, there was one year where Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption, and Pulp Fiction, along with Four Weddings and a Funeral, were all nominated in one category of Best Picture. A handful of classics is like, when has that last happened? When has that last happened? When can we reference a year in which there have been a bunch of movies that we still watch today? The test of time has been able to see if they have lasting power. One thing that I skimmed over really quickly is Four Weddings and a Funeral. That is a romantic comedy. When is the last time that the Oscars nominated a romantic comedy? One thing that sticks in my mind is that Kevin Kline won an Oscar for being this goofy, ridiculous character in A Fish Called Wanda. Where is that? Let's bring that back. Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie, and it won Best Picture. Where's that? Let's bring that back. Tone and mood and narrative and characters and levels of scale. That is diversity when it comes to cinema. I remember growing up watching the Oscars, preparing, like, you know, you would there was a build up to it. My mom was excited about. I have memories of sitting down with her specifically. She was just as passionate about movies as I was. And we would have Oscar parties. We would go out to get food. We would bring it home. We would have a party, you know? Billy Crystal was the one that I remember being the classic Oscar host. I mean, he was a song and dance man. He was also a comedian. The most influential and memorable thing for me was when he put himself into the scenes of movies to parody them, things like that, and many other moments. It was so captivating and also hilarious, and they don't do that anymore. So you might ask, well, Kyle, what is it that has made Hollywood change? What is it that has made the Oscars change? One of the things is political correctness. One of the things is the wokeness of LA and California and that culture online. It is prevented movies that have been made in the past and the quality of that kind to be made again in this era. It has not allowed movies that do happen to get made through the doorway into the Oscars. There's a movie called Dragged Across Concrete that came out in 2018, I believe. If that movie had been made in the early 2000s, that movie would have been nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture. That's a movie that's hugely underrated by a even more underrated writer-director. The Oscars, it's not about conflicts between this celebrity or that celebrity. It's not a sleazy reality show. It's not a multi-million-dollar soapbox for public figures to stand upon and tell you what's right and wrong. The Oscars are supposed to be about the aspirations to dream big.
But this moment is directly connected to those childhood imaginings. And for anybody who's on the downside of advantage and relying purely on courage, it's possible.
It's about celebrating movies. This is a good lead into what happened. I don't need to do a recap of what happened. It is now solidified in the pop culture of the world. Jim Carrey gave one of the best explanations I've heard from anybody in regards to what Will Smith did.
If anyone else had walked from the audience and done that, they would have been escorted out by security or maybe even arrested. The police asked Chris.
They should have been. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore. I'd announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous.
You know, the thing that's funny is that the moment of him hitting him wasn't what stood out to me. When he sat back down and shouted at him twice, that tone of voice, that rage that he had, I've seen before. That is somebody with some serious issues he does not have resolved yet. The following events that occurred, him winning the Oscar just half an hour later, and speaking in this emotional way and being completely unself-aware of the irony, the ridiculous irony of him speaking of love just moments after he assaulted somebody. The contradiction is so disturbing and nearly hilarious. It brings about the phrase of truth is stranger than fiction. And then you have moments afterwards where he was seen dancing. He was fine. He wasn't regretful about what happened. All those years, all those movies that I still love, you know? Independence Day, a fun, you know, epic, classic action B movie. I love it. The great performances that he's turned in other films, all of that will be overshadowed by this assault. The hope is that he does find redemption and that he has people that reach out to him that encourage him to get help. The frustrating thing is that he put out a statement that was very obligatory, saying that he's still a work in progress. The guy is almost 60 years old. How long does someone need to realize that you don't go up on stage in front of a global broadcast and assault somebody? And it was facilitated in conjunction with what I spoke of with the degradation of Hollywood. I think those things go hand in hand in degrees and certain levels that could be examined even further with deeper analysis, but for brevity's sake, we'll continue on. The movie that won Best Picture was Coda. I like the movie. It's a nice movie, but it's not Best Picture, top tier kind of movie. There are things about it that I have qualms with. The way that the script is. I mean, the script won Best Adapted Screenplay. I noticed that there are things in the story in the movie that are half-baked concerning the characters of the brother, the mother. The love interest just drops off after a really nice scene happens between them when they go to a lake.
Should we leave a note in case people think it's a joint suicide?
Yeah, let's keep them guessing.
That is really cute. That's really good dialogue between those two. Now, an aspect that I think the ultimate reason why it won Best Picture is because it deals with a social handicap and having a main character that has a family who is deaf, but she's not. So having that contrast allows for some conflict, right? But if you take away the characters, her family being deaf, it's really about her family not believing in her musical aspirations as a singer. That reminded me of like a Disney Channel movie from the early 2000s. Her learning to sing better with her music teacher. I was hoping that you would get more in-depth this exploration of her learning to be a better singer with her teacher in the way that Searching for Bobby Fischer did when it comes to chess. That is an excellent movie about the pressures that a parent can put on their child and the pressures that a mentor teacher can have, good and bad, on a younger student. When it comes to Coda, you have 3 actors in the movie that are authentically deaf. In scenes where there are arguments, for example, there's a scene between Ruby and her brother in which he signs to her and says that the family was better off when she wasn't there. His vigor is passionate and angry, frustrated. They're only just utterances of breath. Now, I wasn't sure if this was an accurate perception that I had, a sense of like something feels off with these scenes. There's something missing. It's too quiet. My question was, wouldn't there be some kind of vocalizing from these characters, from these people in heated moments? So I decided to contact somebody about this question, like this thought that I had.
Hi, Gabriel. This is Kyle. Hey, Kyle. Found you a person who can answer your question. She is actually a CODA.
Hi, my name's KB. My mom is deaf and blind, so I do have experience in being the hearing child of a deaf adult. In my experience, it's really just is varies depending upon the deaf person themselves. My mother arguing with the person who is hearing, she will throw in words because or get loud because she knows that whoever she's arguing with can hear what she's saying or grunting. It wouldn't be dead silent. There would be like the mouth noises. Sometimes they don't even know that they're making an actual noise.
I felt as though that was missing from the movie. Seeing those characters making grunts, having interjections of some kind that they were sounding out. These actors are actually deaf. And it brings into other questions of how much did they know about the sound mixing? Did they know or were instructed by the director to make noises? And was the director standoffish about asking them to make noises? Was that not a concern of hers? It just doesn't feel raw enough to me. It just felt like, okay, so there's one character that speaks in this argument. No one else, none of these other characters who are deaf are gonna be making any noise whatsoever except maybe some breath. I feel that there's a movie from the 90s, going all the way back to the 90s again, that deals with deafness in a way that was very impressionable to me. The movie called Mr. Holland's Opus. It's about a musical teacher who has a son who is born deaf. The moments between them, him learning how to sign, him not dedicating enough of his time and energy to his son, and the resentments that occur with that.
Couldn't we do this another time? No!
And the eventual reconciliation that occurs. In and amongst all of these events of decades of from the 50s all the way to, the 90s, beautiful movie. It's not that Coda is a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. And I liked it. I just had qualms about the main character and how she goes through other aspects in the story with her musical teacher, her love interest. Those things needed to be strong, not just the parents and the family being deaf. Which, by the way, the actor who plays the father, he was really great in the movie. So him winning the award for Best Actor, thumbs up for that. But when it comes to the movie itself, that's when I disagree. I want to leave on a positive note to be hopeful in where Hollywood goes from here and what happens to the movies that we're uplifting, that we're paying attention to, and that hopefully we still go to the movies. There's a time and place for things like this that you're watching right now, but then there's also a time and place for watching something that's a narrative, that's a grand emotional journey with characters and spectacle. And when I say spectacle, I don't mean superhero movies. I mean spectacle can be a character drama. Spectacle to me can be both. Michael Bay's movies incorporate spectacle, but I also think that Richard Linklater's movies of the Before trilogy, for example, that contains spectacle to me as well. That's what's ultimately magical about movies, is that the word spectacle can be applied to so many different aspects of a film, different kinds of films, whether it be horror, whether it be a thriller or a comedy, a joke. These things can be applied to so many different movies. It's just, how is it done? Is it done well? Do we fall in love with the movie, or do we forget it? Thank you to KV and Gabriel for answering my questions and indulging me in my wonderings in my phone call. See you next time.